Today we're with Hans Kleisel, the founder of HK Engineering here in Germany, and they are world-renowned for restoring Mercedes 300 SLs. So Hans, here we are in this beautiful monastery where the monks used to brew beer, and now you've turned it into a facility for restoring literally hundreds of classic Gullwing Mercedes sports cars. And you've learned so much over the years about these cars that you're an expert, and you've even written a book about them. Could you tell us about your own personal car, which you drive? It's a Gullwing also, and just share with us some of the knowledge you have about this car, and maybe tell us why you love it and how it came to be in the first place.
Well, it is a very original car, and it has a great history. It belonged to the most famous playboy of the 50s, Porfirio Rubirosa. He knew a lot of people. He had most beautiful girls at the time. He was a diplomat. He was a racer, and after all, when I bought the car, on the plate there were my initials, 300 HK 75.
It looked like it was made for you.
Yeah, so I had no choice. French plate 75 is Paris. So, because he drove the car mostly in Paris.
The car has a very interesting patina. It is not shiny, and I think you have a name for this kind of paint.
Well, you have to know that at the time the cars all had nitro paint, and it was a paint that was not shiny by itself. You had to polish it every day or every second day to keep it shiny. But if you were cool enough, you didn't polish, and so the paint had a dull appearance, the same appearance as the car has now. I was the first one to do this with a classic car. Yeah, I remember
because I see
when
I
presented it at the Mille, I think maybe 18 years ago, and everybody said, "What is that?" But after then, they realized that this is how classic cars should be painted when they are silver. And now all the museums like Mercedes Museum or BMW, they have their car in
this way.
Kind of.
The interior also is very original, I think.
It's not very original. It is the original interior. It's the first leather, and it can be proved when you see on the downside of this cushion. It's maybe hard to see, but here is the number of the body.
Right, I see.
That they used to do with every car. So if you see this on a 300L car, you know that the seats are original.
Are original, and that indicates probably that the rest of the car is original.
You know, when you have a old interior, the first thing that get ruins is the seats, because you sit on them. You know, so if the seats are original, you can they make the conclusion that all the rest is original as well.
Yeah, and many famous people were in this automobile over time. I mean, think you mentioned Marilyn Monroe as a possibility. What were some of the other?
Quite sure of, for example, Zsa Zsa Gabor. She was in Paris with him for a long time, and there's a lot of pictures with her and the car and him.
You have something written here, and I don't assume that's graffiti, right? So what is this?
No, it was Sterling Moss that I met when we did the tour also, I think in 2001, and he was driving a little MGB, and we were driving this car, so we said hello, we talked to him, and then I asked him, could you please sign my car?
Oh,
why not?
God.
And this is how
so
it happened.
you're never going to wax this car?
Yeah, no.
Never.
No, it's a paint over it to keep it safe. Yeah.
A flip-up steering wheel, that's nice. So that was good for ease of entry and exit. Can you tell us more about the other gauges, like the speedometer that Rubirosa modified?
This is a very special one, because Rubirosa, he faked it, and he changed the numbers, so he did as maximum speed 360 instead of 260 to impress the woman, obviously. Also, this clock here is an instrument that he put in the car as a personal choice. It's not the original clock that's in the car. The other instruments are original. This is for the RPM. This is the oil pressure. This is the fuel gauge. And here you have the temperature of the oil and the temperature of the water. When I want to start the car, here I have the ignition, and here I have to do this switch that makes the electrical fuel pump working. And now I can start the car.
Man, that is big. So this is a 300 engine that was in the big limousine at the time. So Hans, how did they fit this limousine engine into this much smaller sports car?
Well, it seems so big, but what you see is the intake manifold.
Right, that's here.
Engine that they had in the limousines did not fit under the hood. So they had to incline the engine, and this is why you have this appearance with the big intake manifold. To get the air in coming from there,
Right.
they had to do this big manifold.
Yeah, because it
What
sweeps across the
also
engine.
has the effect to get more horsepower because of the way how the air gets into the engine.
Okay.
And as you see, to get it here and there under the hood, they had this, let me just close the hood to see it. They had this thing that looks like a styling element, but it was necessary to get the engine in. So this
Because
and
this
this
was-
part goes under the hood, you know?
Yeah. Well, this is one of the few designs that's authentically functional. You
Yes,
know, all
right,
these
right.
things mean something.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a carburetor on this. Was this one of the first cars not to have a carburetor?
But this was the first big production car that had the direct fuel injection.
Yeah.
It's not a normal as they have it now. It's a so-called direct fuel injection. Gets
Directly in here.
in the engine block
I see.
where the explosions take
Yeah.
place.
Okay.
And this system of the direct fuel injection comes from the airplanes, from the engines that Mercedes did for the Messerschmitt airplanes in the World War.
Oh. Hans, you were explaining to me that because this car is built on a tubular frame and not a chassis underneath, that the frame forced the engineers to create the gullwing door. And I was just wondering if you could continue explaining that to us.
Yeah, you see here that the door opening is very high, and it had to be so high because down there is all this kind of tubular frame. Everywhere this little tubes, they are very light, so this is what makes this car so special. It's this light tubular frame that is derived from the aircrafts of World War II. It was a necessity and not a styling element. So you
you
see
kinda hop
that now you can easily get in and out, and if the door was here, how could you get in and out of the car?
Yeah. Hans, can you explain how the door works, how you open it and close it for us?
Okay, you have this handle here to tear it down, and then you get your hand on this handle and just you close it, okay? And to open, it's same thing. The doors are light, they are out of aluminium, and you have here the springs inside that support you when you open the door, so it's quite easy to open it. This is important for the car. It was a race car, it had to be light. This was a big advantage, so this is why they had to figure out the door opening like this to get in and out.
Hans, we've talked enough about this car. Now let's get this 300 SL out on the road. This car is famous for being so fast in its day. How did it compare to the Maseratis and Ferraris?
It was the fastest car of its time. It went 250 kilometers, and no other car could do this in the year of 54. It was only late 57, 58 when the Ferraris were faster. But until 57, there was no other car could match this one in terms of speed and velocity.
So, Hans, you were telling me earlier that Sterling Moss won the 1955 Mille Miglia with a 300 SLR Sport Racer, which was not really a production car. It was designed for racing. But there were cars literally bought off the showroom floor in that race called production class automobiles, and they came in with winning times too. Can you explain a little bit more about that to us?
I think that the biggest success of this car was the Mille Miglia of 55. Everybody knows that Sterling Moss won the race car, but nobody knows that in the first 10 cars out of 400 participating were 3 normal standard Gullwings. Number 5 was the first Gullwing of John Fitch. And in the Mille Miglia of 56, this was even more incredible. It was Graf Berger von Trips, who was many hours in the lead of the whole race with a standard Gullwing.
So all he had done is ordered the transaxle to his specification, and he took this car almost out of the showroom and took it into the race course. It's incredible.
Yeah. Or another story, it was Eifelrennen at the Nürburgring in 57. One gentleman driver bought standard 300 SL car and he won. He was the overall winner of the race.
Amazing.
These cars were at the time incredibly fast.
Yeah, that's great. That's good stuff. Hans, you know, something I really like about this is you're driving the car with the door open. I never even expected that you could do that with this, but it really makes it feel open, like being in a cabriolet. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
You can keep the doors open, and it's in fact as you would drive in an open car.
And that makes you feel like you're outside. And yeah.
It's very nice. People mostly think you open the doors because you want to show people how nice the car is, but it's just because it's hot inside. And when you open the doors, it's very, very nice, and you have the air coming in, and you're driving like in a cabriolet.
So, Hans, as they say, all good things come to an end. I just wanted to say that it's been great. I think I can speak for the viewers of Carthropology that we really appreciate your sharing your time and knowledge on this remarkable car and explaining the history, the engineering, the races, and its place in high society, and then taking us out in this beautiful countryside. It's been absolutely great, just great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.